Hi, I'm Blake, and my Supreme Court case is New York Times v. United States in 1971, also known as the Pentagon Papers case. Let's get into the facts of the case. In 1971, the New York Times and Washington Post released articles which were based off of the Pentagon Papers. The Pentagon Papers refers to a 7,000-page document which outlined the United States' involvement in the Vietnam War. These papers showed that the U.S. played a much larger role in the Vietnam War than the government had previously told the public. Daniel Ellsberg, the United States military analyst at the time, leaked the Pentagon Papers to the New York Times and other news sources, which enabled them to write the article. Following the publication of the first articles by the New York Times and the Washington Post, the Nixon administration blocked any additional articles from being published about the Pentagon Papers. In order to get the block removed, the New York Times sued the United States in the District Court of the Southern District of New York and the District Court for the District of Columbia. Both of these district courts sided with the New York Times and removed the block on the articles. The case was then sent to the Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit and the Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit. In the District of Columbia Circuit, the Court of Appeals affirmed the decision of the district courts. However, in the Second Circuit, the Court of Appeals ruled in favor of the United States. This case then went to the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court granted a temporary block while they reviewed the case. The constitutional issue that this case tried to address is whether the First Amendment, specifically freedom of the press, applies to information which could threaten national security. The New York Times v. United States case was argued in the Supreme Court on June 26, 1971, and decided on June 30, 1971. The Supreme Court sided with the New York Times in a 6-3 vote and lifted the block on future publications. In the per curiam opinion of the courts, the majority stated that the government did not meet the heavy burden of proving the need for a restraint, which was established in Organization for a Better Austin v. Keefe in 1971. Also, because of Bantam Books Incorporated v. Sullivan in 1963, any court case which deals with the inhibition of expression contains a presumption of it being invalid under the Constitution. In a concurring opinion, Justices Hugo Black and William Douglas stated that this case should have never made it to oral argument of the Supreme Court because the First Amendment was adopted to ensure people that their rights would not be violated. This court decision solidified the role of the media as a watchdog and prevented the power of the First Amendment from being weakened because of national security.
Created using Powtoon.